In the opening scenes of the film, we are introduced to Jake Portman, a teenager engrossed in his job at a grocery store. His routine takes an unexpected turn when he receives a call from his father, urging him to be at his grandfather Abe's house. Abe, battling dementia, requires constant care. Jake's coworker kindly offers him a ride to Abe's home. Upon arrival, Jake discovers his grandfather missing, prompting a frantic search with his coworker. Eventually, they find Abe on the ground, a shocking sight with both his eyeballs missing. In a surreal moment, Abe urgently implores Jake to go back to September 3, 1943, using a mysterious postcard and meet a bird. Abruptly, Abe falls silent, taking his last breath, leaving Jake in stunned disbelief. As Jake grapples with the trauma, a colossal monster materializes in the darkness. The creature vanishes when Jake's colleague accidentally fires a shot in its direction. Despite initially dismissing Abe's last words as nonsense, the lingering image of the monster deeply affects Jake's mental well-being. Fast forward a month after Abe's demise, Jake seeks solace in therapy. He recounts tales from his childhood, where Abe spoke of a peculiar home for special children on Cairnholm, an island off the coast of Wales. Little does Jake know that these seemingly fantastical stories are about to unravel into a mysterious and extraordinary journey. Within the peculiar confines of the home run by Peregrine, a stern yet compassionate lady capable of transforming into a bird resided children with extraordinary abilities. These were the ones who found themselves out of place in mainstream society: Bronwyn and Victor, endowed with superhuman strength, Hugh, hosting a colony of bees within him, and Emma, possessing the power to float. Abe, Jake's grandfather, had a collection of pictures showcasing these unique individuals, and Jake embraced these fantastical tales for years. The turning point came when Jake shared extraordinary stories in a middle school presentation, leading to merciless ridicule from classmates who couldn't fathom such notions. Frustrated, Jake accused Abe of fabricating lies, prompting Abe to choose silence on the subject of special children, burying the enchanting tales. As Jake grapples with the aftermath, his therapist delves into the psychological struggle of distinguishing between Abe's fantasies and reality. The therapist suggests this confusion led Jake to hallucinate the monstrous entity on that fateful day. In a poignant twist, Jake's aunt presents him with a book found among Abe's belongings upon his return home. Within the pages of the enigmatic book, a postcard bearing the name of Miss Peregrine and the address of the children's home captures Jake's attention. In a subsequent therapy session, he shares this revelation with his therapist, who advocates for a visit to the place as a means of finding closure for both Jake and his late grandfather, Abe. Eager to unravel the mysteries, Jake and his father set out for Wales the very next day, arriving in the town and settling into a time-worn hotel. Jake ventures to the children's home, only to discover it reduced to ruins. Upon his return, a resident recounts a harrowing tale. In 1943, a devastating Nazi missile struck the children's home, leaving it obliterated and claiming the lives of all within. Unfazed, Jake returns the following day, only to encounter a mysterious girl who materializes before him. Startled, he attempts to flee, stumbles, and loses consciousness. Awakening in the powerful grip of Bronwyn, the girl of superhuman strength from his grandfather's stories, Jake finds himself surrounded by other characters from the fantastical tales. Shocked yet elated by the tangible reality of the stories, Jake finds himself in the company of Emma, the girl with the ability to float. She discloses that they are emissaries sent by Miss Peregrine to enlighten him. Together, they venture into a cave, but overwhelmed by nervousness, Jake hastily retreats to his hotel. There, he encounters unfamiliar faces who question his identity, revealing a startling truth. His entry into the cave transported him back in time to September 3, 1943. Faced with the imminent threat of being mistaken for a spy and killed by the hotel residents, Jake's life is spared by the timely intervention of the children from earlier. They rescue him and guide him back to the children's home, where he finally meets Miss Peregrine. Inside, the peculiar abilities of the children come to life, as demonstrated by Olive, who boils tea with her hands, showcasing her ability to create fire. Miss Peregrine reveals the purpose of the children's home as a sanctuary for peculiars, those born with unique qualities. These attributes, inherited as recessive genes, can manifest in any generation, creating a tapestry of extraordinary abilities throughout time. Jake learns about sanctuaries worldwide, serving as havens to protect peculiars from ordinary society's scrutiny. Each is overseen by a unique breed of peculiar called imbrines. These guardians can freeze and repeat time, as well as shapeshift into birds. As a Imbrin, Miss Peregrine resets time daily, and the inhabitants have been reliving September 3, 1943, for as long as memory serves. Abe, Jake's grandfather, once called this peculiar refuge home, and the children he introduced to Jake were his companions from those timeless days. Trapped in the temporal loop, they remain unchanged by the passage of time. The revelation leaves Jake astounded, prompting him to question Miss Peregrine about Abe's peculiar power. However, she dismisses his inquiry, leaving Jake to explore the peculiar abode. During his exploration, Jake encounters Enoch, a peculiar with the unique ability to animate the deceased and inanimate objects as his puppets. As the day unfolds, revelations surface during supper. Jake learns that Abe departed the children's home to join the army. Further, he discovers that Emma harbored affection for Abe during their shared time in the peculiar haven. Following the revelations in the peculiar haven, the inhabitants gather to share an extraordinary experience. A movie projected onto the wall by Horace, a peculiar with the ability to manifest his dreams, even glimpses of the future. The mesmerized group watches Horace's dream unfold like a cinematic tale. Post-movie, they venture outside to witness the awe-inspiring moment when Miss Peregrine resets time. Jake, captivated, observes as she intervenes to prevent the missile from wreaking havoc on the house, orchestrating the temporal reset to September 3 once again. In a moment of reflection, Jake discovers a letter penned by his grandfather addressed to Miss Peregrine. Gripped by curiosity, he holds onto the missive. Emma guides Jake to the cave, a path leading him out of the perpetual loop. As they traverse, an injured Imbrin bird lands before them. Emma, ever protective, takes the bird and returns to the house, leaving Jake to emerge from the temporal loop. Back in the hotel, Jake delves into the letter he surreptitiously acquired. Abe's words serve as a warning to Miss Peregrine about a looming threat named Baron, who poses a danger to peculiars in another loop. In the wake of unfolding mysteries, Jake's father takes him to a beach for a birdwatching expedition, where they encounter the ornithologist John. Annoyed by the intrusion, they return to the hotel. When night falls, Jake, driven by curiosity, re-enters the temporal loop. He confronts Miss Peregrine about Baron, only to face her frustration at his intrusive queries. Enoch leads him to Victor, a peculiar whose lifeless form shocks Jake. Witnessing Enoch's puppetry power, Jake grapples with the eerie display. During a walk, Jake questions Emma about Baron. She leads him beneath the sea into a shrunken ship, revealing a box supposedly belonging to Abe with a map of peculiar loops and images of peculiar individuals, including Baron, the leader of malevolent peculiars called the Hollows. Emma discloses that Abe left to hunt the Hollows, a task he couldn't complete. The Hollows aim to eradicate peculiar children, and only Miss Peregrine knows their true motives. Emma then guides Jake to witness Miss Peregrine combat a monstrous entity akin to the one Jake encountered when Abe passed away. Emma reveals a startling truth. Jake, like his grandfather, possesses a peculiar ability. Both can see invisible monsters. Miss Peregrine, leveraging her time manipulation skills, wages a secret battle against these creatures. Jake's newfound realization unveils a shared destiny with his grandfather and an unexpected role in the peculiar world. Back in the children's home, Miss Peregrine shares a chilling account of the Hollow's origins with Jake. These once ordinary peculiars grew weary of the eternal loops and sought immortality by harnessing the essence of Imbrine's powers. Their misguided experiment turned them into invisible monsters with a need to consume peculiar children's eyes to revert to human form. Baron, along with some companions, regained their human shapes, but their eyes remained unsettlingly milky white. The Hollows, relentless in their pursuit, continued abducting peculiar children for their eyes. As Miss Peregrine concludes the narrative, Miss Avocet, the Imbrin found in the cave, regains consciousness. She reveals the heartbreaking fate of her children's home, utterly destroyed by the monsters who killed her charges for their eyes. Baron, aiming to conduct the failed experiment again, plans to use more Imbrines, with Miss Peregrine's home as his next target. Driven by the urgency of the impending danger, Miss Peregrine swiftly urges the children to pack their bags, intending to alter the loop for their safety. Emma implores Jake to join them in another loop, but he declines, opting to return to the island and exit the loop. Upon reaching the beach, Jake stumbles upon a grim scene, a crowd surrounding a lifeless body, eyes gruesomely removed. The realization strikes him that the Hollows are already present. He races toward the cave to warn Miss Peregrine, with John, the ornithologist, following close behind, drawn into the impending peculiar strife. A startling revelation unfolds as it's exposed that John is none other than Baron, shapeshifting to conceal his true identity. He discloses his elaborate ruse, masquerading as Jake's therapist to manipulate Jake into leading him to the children's home and unveiling the location of the loop. Baron threatens Jake, demanding he guide him to the peculiar sanctuary. Miss Peregrine, shocked by Baron's presence at her doorstep, reluctantly offers to accompany him, pleading to spare the children. Left in the wake of their departure, Miss Avocet and Jake fortify the home, sealing all doors and windows while arming themselves. Baron, armed with knowledge of their location, could send his monstrous allies to hunt the children for their eyes. In a sudden attack, an invisible monster strikes Miss Avocet, fatally injuring her. Jake intervenes, injuring the creature, but the damage is done. The survivors retreat to the attic, escaping through a tree branch. With Miss Peregrine absent to reset the loop, the day transitions to September 4th, and the Nazi missile drops on the house, a calamity narrowly avoided by the timely exit. Outside the loop, the group devises a plan to confront Baron, who is conducting the perilous experiment using Miss Peregrine and other imbrines. Following Abe's map, they embark on a journey, reaching a carnival. Jake and Emma enter the Black Loop, transporting them back to 2016. Inside the Black Loop, they find Baron, his accomplices, and menacing monsters. Jake strategically provokes Baron, luring the monsters and two of Baron's men outside. The children execute a well-devised plan, exposing the true forms of the monsters by pelting them with snow. Simultaneously, Enoch commands a legion of skeletons as his puppets, engaging in battle with the monsters. As the children confront Baron and his allies, a fierce clash ensues, each peculiarly employing their unique powers. The skirmish concludes with the defeat of everyone except Baron, setting the stage for a climactic showdown. As the climactic confrontation unfolds, Jake releases the injured imbrines, including Miss Peregrine, from their cages. Despite their injuries, they offer no assistance. The tense standoff between Jake and Baron reaches its pinnacle when Baron unexpectedly shape-shifts into Jake, adding a layer of confusion to the confrontation. Emma and Enoch enter the room, perplexed by the identical figures standing before them. Armed with a crossbow, they demand each Jake to prove their authenticity. In a sudden twist, a monstrous entity enters the room. Jake, quick to spot the danger, alerts Emma and Enoch. The monster, mistaken by Baron for Jake, launches an attack, claiming his life by extracting his eyes. In a decisive move, Jake defeats the monster, ensuring the safety of everyone present. As the time loop begins to close, Jake bids farewell to the peculiar children, watching them return to their ship in 1943. He remains in 2016 and travels to his home in Florida, where he discovers that Baron's death at the beginning of the year has erased his presence in Florida later on. Delighted, Jake recounts the unfolding events to Abe, who advises him to reunite with Emma. Following Abe's counsel, Jake embarks on a global journey, traversing various loops in search of Emma and the other peculiar children. Finally, he locates them on the ship, still journeying through time. In a heartfelt moment, Jake professes his love to Emma, and the two share a long-awaited kiss. The movie concludes with Miss Peregrine soaring above the ship, watching over the peculiar children as they continue their extraordinary voyage.